We'll be talking match reactions, transfers, performances. We'll be talking Chelsea, Newcastle, who have had something in common, and that is a bit of a mixed season. But what do the performances say about how managers and players have been doing? Well, let's find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabian Sham
All right, folks. I hope you guys are doing amazing this evening, this day, this morning, wherever you are in the world. We are very, very blessed to have fans across the world. And I can say that the channel is very, very small, but we have got fans across the world, which is crazy. And it is all down to you. I'm excited, super, super excited about tonight's show because not only have we got one of our friend of our channels, but we've got two of our friend of the channels on here tonight with our man Bobby Fairview and with our man Mitch as well. We'll be doing a Chelsea Newcastle season breakdown. We'll be talking match reactions for both our teams, for both of the games that we had this season, as well as judging and assessing how the season has gone, going back on our predictions. And I have to be honest, when I looked at my season predictions, my eyes started watering. I said, I can't believe I did this. But I'll be doing it with you folks as well. And we'll be talking about transfers, and particularly transfers and players that are linked between both clubs. But before I welcome our illustrious guests in, I want to say good evening to Adrian Pickett. God bless you. Says good evening to you all. Good evening to you, sir. Good to see my man Ches here, as always, all the way from South Africa. Let me know if you're listening, Ches, from your work or what you up to. It'd be good to hear from you. God bless you. Got Jamal from Colorado. Good to see you, sir. Oh, this here. We are international mags. We can call ourselves international mags. Good to see you, sir. Good evening to everyone. I am very, very well, Ches. Thank you, sir. We've got our man Nathan here as well. God bless you. Says hello, y'all. Hello, y'all. Hello to you too, sir. I caught myself up there. And as always, we've got our regular, always here, Raymond Kanguman says, hi, Toon Philip. How are you? PIF are selling. You do not wait at all, do you, Raymond? PIF are selling Newcastle now. PIF owners have pulled out of Newcastle now. As far as I know, they're still here. And Amanda Staveley should buy Newcastle. Yes, Amanda should. I hear you, Raymond. We'll talk about it at some point in the show. But first of all, are you well, Raymond? I hope everything is with you. Everything is with you. Ches says, I'm listening from work. Yes, good to have you. Good. Watching the Borough game. Oh, yeah. First off was intense. Fair play. And good to see also my man Truls coming in here as well. Hey, Philip, good to see you, sir. God bless you. Well, without further ado, allow me to introduce both Bobby and Mitch into our show. You guys know how incredible both are. I'm really looking forward to a real in-depth but also lots of fun, lots of jokes with you all as well from our illustrious guests. Let me welcome Bobby. Let me welcome Mitch onto the show. How are you gentlemen doing?
Very well, and happy to be here. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, all good. Just struggling through to the end of the season, but we'll get there. But it's all
good. To be fair, at least when you're not fighting relegation, there's some are really struggling. It's really intense for them at the moment. To be fair, you can always look to your left and look. At least Bobby, you're in the final. Another final. You got something to look forward to.
Sure, but I mean, if you look at the teams that we played, I think Leeds was probably the most difficult, right? But you know what? It's a cup. It's a final. Good to be at Wembley, I guess. We have a protest outside, so that's really been my preoccupation lately. But,
that's how you do it. Protesting outside Wembley is how you do it.
Exactly right. But I mean, it's fantastic to be here to talk about football for a change, because we've been obsessing about other things at Chelsea, as you would know.
Yes, and you've been at the forefront of it, Bobby, as well. I can see online, especially at the crest of the wave, challenging Blueco. We'll get into it anyway. But it's good to see. It's good to see. And all right, so we're actually talking about football. Let's start off with some match reactions. We'll talk because we're going to talk about both teams. We'll keep it as concise as possible. But I'm sure the chat, you guys will give us your views on the games. We'll start off with Newcastle and Nottingham Forest. Now, I have to confess from the beginning, I haven't got to see the second half just yet. I saw some of the highlights of the first half. So, Mitch, I'm relying on you and those in the chat to inform me on how things went. But I'll just say for the first half before I give it over to Mitch, I thought that, first of all, the lineups, let me get into the lineups, was very, very interesting. I thought where is it? Did we have the lineup here? First of all, I thought, here we go. In fact, I like the Sofa Score one better. Or is it FOTMob? Yeah, the way they do the lineups on FOTMob is a little bit better. Mitch, I thought that Howe would keep his lineup from what game was it that we won? Or did we win the previous one? Oh, the Brighton game.
The Brighton game, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was going to keep that lineup, but he seems to have changed it quite a bit. With a number of faces here. Obviously, Woltemade gets us. Make sure you guys can see this. Can you see the lineups?
Yep, got that.
So we've got Woltemade in place of Willock, just in behind Solid there. With looks like Tonali and Bruno were in the pivot, with obviously Woltemade supporting Osola. Burn maintains his position on the left, but it's Mr. Howe who comes in at right back. I know a lot of folks have been waiting for this to happen, for Mr. Woltemade to step in at number 10. Before we get into the heart of the game, I mean, Mitch, from your perspective, how you feel about Woltemade's individual performances in the middle?
Very unimpressed is what I would say about it. It looked disjointed. I think he was a key reason why we look so disjointed. I'm not digging him out. I'm a massive, massive Woltemade fan, but it wasn't his best game. And I think other parts of the pitch didn't work because he wasn't holding the ball well enough. He gave it away quite a few times, because with Joe Linton on the left, that normally works as sort of like a dovetail with whoever's playing just off Willasula. And Woltemade seemed to be miles away from everybody for most of the game. Whereas if you've got, say, a Willock in there, or when Ramsey came on, you could see the rotation there was causing Forrest a lot more problems. And I thought that was a lot of the downfall to our attacking. Like I said, I'm not digging Woltemade out. He hasn't played a lot of games. He might not be as sharp as he wants to be, but I thought positionally, another technical side of the game, which he's actually meant to be really good at, I think he failed at quite miserably at the weekend. And yeah, he can't really blame anybody but himself for that, to be honest.
I don't know, Bobby, if you've had a chance to see the game, and just before I get into see Mitch, when I looked at Woltemade in that first half as well, and I agree with I see a lot of what you were saying. I feel like it felt like he was very much a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, and I think part of the reason why Hall played at right back was to invert and to find Woltemade, but Woltemade wasn't showing himself.
No.
In comparison, I don't know if you guys saw the Tottenham Leeds game, and Maddison came on in the second half, and you can just see Maddison as a number 10. That's what I think Woltemade was trying to be in this game, a number 10. Maddison, who'd been away for over a year, obviously due to injury, calling for the ball, demanding for the ball, trying to dictate the play either from deep or coming in just on the periphery of the box. Now, I know you had 10-15 minutes, but the big reason, going back to Hall, right back, it was for the purpose of supporting Woltemade. He had players around him, Bruno, Tonali, You had players in front of him in Osola making runs, so he had someone to go on to. It's just not quite connecting for me. It's just not connecting for me, just like you, Mitch. I don't know if you had a chance to see the game, Bobby, but or what your overall take on Woltemade this season is. I'll be keen to know.
Yeah, I mean, look, you and I arranged that I would join you today since last week, so I made sure I did my homework. I did catch quite a bit of the game. Look, Woltemade is doing damage to my reputation on this channel because I generally have a pretty good track record here, and I was backing this guy, right? I thought he was an excellent sign-in given the circumstances at the end of the window. And I mean, other people would describe it as a panic buy. I wouldn't go that far because he had a pretty good reputation. Quite a few other clubs were after him. And he started out hot. I mean, I think that guy had a conversion rate close to 50% for the first quarter of the season, I want to say. And then I still can't understand what happened. And I was watching him in the game. I mean, you can definitely see how slow he was. And that's probably a function of him being deeper, I guess, in the pitch, where he has to cover a little bit more ground. But I mean, to Mitch's point, the things then you expect him to excel at, you know, retaining the ball, making passes, making clever passes, like the confidence is just gone. And I think that's probably it. I think what we're seeing right now on the pitch is not him. It's certainly not the player that we saw in the first part of the season. And I think moving him around, playing him in positions that he shouldn't be in, he's definitely lost confidence. And it's sad to see because, I mean, I don't think the way he was converting all those goals, I don't think that was luck. I think that was a player with confidence and who has ability. But, you know, it's clearly been drained out of him. You got to feel sorry for the guy. His place at the World Cup is probably now in jeopardy. So it's been a poor season, and fans are right to be frustrated with what they're seeing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a. It depends who you speak. I guess online, I feel like sometimes Woltemade is, for some fans, a bat to bash Eddie Howe with, and so it kind of turns into that rather than us kind of looking at it objectively to see what's going on with him. I suspect he'll play against West Ham to see, you know, given that second run. But I can't remember if Willock was on the bench, but
he was, yeah.
The way he was, right? But the way Willock and Osola just like flow together in tandem, and they did it against Brighton. I don't think, for instance, we would have won the Brighton game if Willock and Osola didn't start together. How they press together, how they're able to run in the back, running behind together. How, you know, it's they give us so much options on the ball. It's not the same with, and it's not Woltemade's fault-ish. It's just a clash in styles, in my opinion. But Mitch, from your point of view, in terms of the game overall, let me see. Can you guys see the Opta analyst table?
Yep.
Before you go to Mitch, though, just a quick one. Was Willock injured? Was he injured? Like, why did Eddie Howe make that change?
Was who injured?
Great.
Willock
was. I have no idea. He didn't even come off the bench. I don't think. I thought he would pretty much go same again as he had been playing, and he just didn't, and it was weird. When I looked at the starting lineup, I was like, "We've gone three at the back. This doesn't make any sense. Why are we going three at the back?" And then I watched the first 2 minutes and was like, "Oh, okay, Lewis Hall's right back. That's different."
Yeah. I'm only thinking that perhaps there is a lot of rumors about him leaving.
Who, Willock?
So yeah, like him being one of the players to go. I think he's going Fulham. So maybe because of that, but I don't think on the back of the Brighton performance, it made sense for him to start again with Osola. So that would be my only reason, in my opinion. That'd be my only reason for him to be going.
That's just madness, though. He might be going in the summer, yeah, but like if he's not really creating too much noise, play him. He's still our player until the end of the season. Like, go and win some games.
And he's
That
been
is
playing
true.
well.
He's been playing very well for us. He's been playing
Yeah.
very, very well for us. True says Howe has ruined Woltemade. He was great, then Howe got his hands on him. But he started, but then you kind of cancel each other out, because if he was great, it's because Howe also got him. He also started him. So you can't have one without the other. Does that make sense? Like, he was great, but who was the man? Who was the person in charge? It was Howe. Then it wasn't so great. What do you think of that, though, Mitch? Do you think Howe's to blame for that? How much of it is Howe? How much of it is?
Well, Howe's obviously got to take some of the blame for it, because obviously he was on fire. He was scoring goals. I at that point in time, I still don't think he was playing exceptionally well. I thought he was still losing the ball quite a bit too much for my liking. He was getting swallowed up by defenders in a lot of games, but then he was nicking a goal, which is fine if you're playing as a number 9. But yeah, Howe has to take bits of blame, because dropping him into midfield didn't really make too much sense. He's not physical enough to play as a number 9 in this league at the minute, so he's certainly not going to be physical enough to play as an 8 with some of the monsters that teams have in midfield at the minute. So yeah, but a bit of it has to be down to Howe. But and part of it has to be on the player as well, and then part of it has to be on the club for the setup on how we ended up in the position we was in the summer. So it has to be attributed across a few different places. It can't just be it's all Eddie Howe's fault.
No, I agree. I'm going to add one more bit here on Woltemade, because I've got the passing lanes here. Then I'll get a general take on the game, and then before we move on to Chelsea. But this is the passing map for Newcastle versus Nottingham Forest. This is Newcastle. This is the average positions. And for the folks who aren't aware, the pass map shows you the average positions of players. But if you see the lines between the players, that's the passing between those players. So the thicker the bars, or the thicker the lines, the more frequency of passes between those said players. So, for instance, between Malik Chow and between Mr. What's his name? Lewis Hall, they've had 35 passes between each other in that game, right? 23 out of those 35 from Chow to Hall. So you can see the ball is likely to be going forward. That was a big pattern of play. The thinner the lines, obviously, the less frequency. Now, I'm going to get to Woltemade in a minute, but he's number 27. You can see the lines around him are very, very thin, right? But it also allows it also shows you a bit of the pattern of play. I thought we controlled most of the game, actually, particularly in the first half. 53% possession for us, 16 shots, 6 on target. It's fairly even, but I feel in the first half in particular, we controlled the game. The main passing lanes here, you can see with Tonali and Bruno, obviously, the two pivots dictating play. So, for instance, between Joe Linton and Bruno, they had 23 passes between them. Between Tonali and Hall, who was inverting, 23 passes between them. So you can see where the control of that midfield was between those two players, with Chow in particular, but Chow and Botman being responsible for the distribution from out the back. So 13 passes between Botman and Tonali. Where is the other guy? Bruno as well. Botman, 13 passes between them. Chow, like we mentioned, him and Hall, 35 passes between them. There's somebody else here, I can't find him. But Hall, for instance, was instrumental at right back. And you can see just from him here how well he distributed the ball here. Between him and Murphy, 17 passes between them, 12 from Hall to Murphy. So Murphy was constantly being fed, and he was able to feed others. You can see the network of passing between them, even though they're fairly thin. They typically thin out, especially towards the opposition half. But you can see that that's what he was doing. But Hall, very instrumental. Hall and Tonali, 16 passes between them. Hall and Bruno, 23 passes between them. Hall and Joe Linton. Remember, Joe Linton's on the other side of the pitch, so 5 passes between them. So Hall is very, I think Hall's got nearly 100 touches in this game alone, just from him being involved. But then Joe Linton's obviously getting involved as well here, 23 passes between him and Bruno. Now, Osola obviously is fed through Murphy here, 4 passes between him and Murphy, and 4 passes between him and Tonali. And it thins out here for Mr. Woltemade.
No passes between the two of them.
Mental.
No passes. No passes between him and Ursula
What?
whatsoever.
Mental. or Voltemade and Joe Linton.
Or Woltemade and Joelinton.
All Voltemade are burned. So Voltemade's moved over to the left more than anything, and he has not received a single pass from the left-hand side.
Only 4 passes between Woltemade and Bruno.
That's just...
So how can... So even when he's dropping in, as he's supposed to be dropping in fact, let me find... I'll get his heat map in a minute. So my question is, what's the excuse really? If go on. I don't know. I heard someone.
I feel like I gotta put this on the manager though, right? This is not his fault, is it?
Yeah, but the manager can't be telling people not to give him the ball.
But he should be telling them to give him the ball, and he clearly isn't. And the guy is just losing more and more confidence. I mean, I don't get it.
I'd probably have to watch it back to focus on him a little bit more, but it felt live that his movement was nowhere near good enough to get on the ball. He was in positions that just weren't beneficial, so we were going elsewhere, and it shut down a lot of attacks. Is what it felt like watching it live.
Okay.
So let me...
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
So
but he was hard to find. So why find it? Just find a better option. Makes sense.
Yeah. Can you guys see the heat map for Mr. Woltemade? Yeah. So this is from right to left. This is Woltemade. So for all the folks that were saying he's dropping in, he's not doing that much dropping in. He's staying in advanced positions, really where you want him to be, right? On the periphery, in that half space, right here. That's the main parts where he's at. I don't understand how Murphy gets more of a touch than him. And he's in midfield. He's in the advanced areas. But my only kind of takeaway is that he must not be showing for the ball.
That's what it felt like watching it live. And it was quite frustrating. The two things that frustrated me most was that, and as much as Lewis Hall had a lot of touches at right back, I thought him at right back stifled him a lot going forwards. Because where he normally bursts past the man and just keeps going and going and going and creates something, it felt like he got past his man, took a couple of yards and cut back in because he was on his right and he had to get back to his left.
Right.
Yeah, and I felt like it slowed us down so much.
I thought he was your player this season. I'm surprised to see him on the right.
Can you see that heat map for Hall? Can you see the heat map for Hall? Super interesting. But look where he is. He's getting himself right next to Woltemade.
Yeah. You'd also almost expect that bit that comes across the pitch to sort of be across the centre circle.
Right. So for me, he's doing everything he can to be next to Mr. Woltemade. I don't know. He can only do so much, right? This is why he was here. So I don't know. This is, do you know what I mean? Like this is anyone who looks at heat maps for right backs, they don't look like this.
No.
Right? Unless it's like Maresca.
Right, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. All right, so it finished 1-1. Mitch, give me your kind of general take on things. Like I said, we had 53% possession. We shared in terms of attack between us and Forrest, them being the home team. We had 7 shots inside their box. They had 11 in ours. Our shooting accuracy was a little bit higher than usual, which was good. We had 12 key passes. That's passes that lead to shooting to a shot on goal. They had 12 as well. I see people were disappointed with the equalizer. I think from what I've read, that Hall was perhaps foul before it happened. But give me your general take on the game, the goals scored and the goals conceded. How you feel about it? And see what the chat's saying.
Frustration is the most part, because it felt like a game we should have won, not could have won, should have won. As much as the stats make it look very close, I felt like we had the better chances to win the game. We got in the better positions, and people have called it a bit of a moment of magic from Anderson. About 5 minutes before that, Lewis Hall went down, and I genuinely thought he had broke his leg. He looked in absolute agony the way he was writhing around. And Kieran Trippier didn't move on the bench. And I was just thinking, what is going on here? And then the goal they scored comes in a position where any right-footed player closing down Anderson there just tackles him off the pitch. And Hall kind of dangled a leg. I probably kind of get it, because it's the leg he had just injured and sort of half made a tackle, which still isn't good enough. It's still not an excuse not to do it. But I just felt like that injury should have triggered a change, and I think that would have stopped the goal. That's where my frustration comes from, and it was their only real moment of class in the game. And yeah, it's just annoying to draw it off the back of that, because we had a couple of other chances. Osula had one that Woltemade actually created, and there was one other. We had another really good chance as well. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but we had another really good chance as well. Osula hit the bar from a free kick as well. Just frustration. That's the main thing. And it's been most of the season. Pretty much after every single game, I've become more and more frustrated, because it's either we play well and you can see where we won, but we didn't win, or we just don't play well. And it's just like, what has happened to this team? We look so sort of lethargic at times. And it was quite a sloppy game as well. Like the amount of teams, it'd be interesting to see like pass completion stats across the board, because it felt like both teams just didn't want to keep the ball for very long.
Well, let's have a look. Can you see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
So we had 495 passes to their 421. We had passing accuracy for us was 85.1%.
Yeah, so that's not awful.
Our passing accuracy our passing accuracy in their half, in the opponent's half, was 77.5 compared to their 70. We had 172 total passes in their final third compared to their 114. So, we had less things to deal with. Our passing accuracy in the final third was at 72%. Theirs was at 66%. 328 forward passes from us. So everything is going forward. Like it's everything I'm seeing from this is like we had 2 free balls at 1. Everything is pretty much going final. So we had 30 penalty entries to their 25. Crosses, open correct play, crosses 13, overall crosses 14, 28% accurate crosses. These aren't bad, like from what I can see. Obviously, the eye test is going to be a bit different, but
we played well. I thought in general we played well. I thought attacking wise we were very sort of, there was nothing there. There was no real, I don't think we looked as sharp as we have done in previous games this season, let alone last season. The Forrest manager did really well. They did one of them, let's get the goalie to go down and have a little rejig after about 20 minutes.
Right.
And in the first,
I remember that
Lewis Hall and Murphy were having a bit of a field day down the right-hand side, and he made a tweak and completely stopped that for the rest of the game. And it didn't look like we got going again then until Ramsey came on and someone else came on at the same time. We looked at Harvey Barnes. We looked at a different team from that point on.
Makes sense. True says 27 points lost from winning positions. That's awful.
Yep.
Yeah, I talked that in my previous show, and it coincides with the we are like second or first in terms of individual errors that have led to goals, and I think that's down to a system failure. Where it happens to be that we're also a team that concedes the most like transition balls as well. So when you can't control games, and teams are often able to transition through you end up losing. And the Nottingham Forest game, like you said, is a great reminder of that. So even though we've got the higher possession, the more entries, the more touches in the penalty box, teams are still able to get through. because we're just not able to control games that we want to. But it finished 1-1. I thought we'd win 3-0 because Forrest came off that bruiser with Villa.
Three games in a week.
Is 3 games in the week, and they managed to get a draw against us. But it is. We've got West Ham next. Folks in the chat, do let us know what your thoughts are on the game. Let's move on to Chelsea before we get into all the other interesting stuff. Bobby, I watched the game. Chelsea, Liverpool. I'm very keen to get your thoughts on things. I mean, all I'll say is this, is that obviously the first, I think from what I can remember, 10, 15 minutes or so, I think Liverpool seemed to be very much in the ascendancy. And obviously they got that goal away as well. But you guys made some changes, in particular from what I can remember, this is eye test stuff, was Cucurella making those runs in behind down the left, and you start overloading them. And that really shook up Liverpool's control of the game, because at the beginning they had Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, there was a third person in their midfield. There was somebody else that was there, but he was helping them control the midfield. And those overlapping runs from Cucurella, they brought in Palmer, started going on that side. Casado was distributing the ball down that side, and you just started overloading them. And that kind of, I feel like, had a ripple effect on where you guys got the equalizer. But I thought it was a fairly decent game, even though I know that both teams didn't have, much involved and much kind of to play for. But you, Bobby, what was your thoughts coming into the game? What were your thoughts during the game? What's your take on it kind of coming away from it?
Well, I mean, going into the game, if we lost that, we'd have been 007, right? 7 losses. I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of the league. Certainly 6 losses in a row would have been a record for us. But look, it's a club in turmoil, right? So to have gone to Liverpool and actually gotten a point was, I think, a pretty good achievement. We're going to look at some of the data later, but this McFarlane guy is actually pretty interesting. The players seem to respond to him a bit more than they do to Rafinha, or they did to Rafinha. His game is probably closer to what to Maresca's style of play. Now, coming into the game, we didn't have any wingers, right? So that's why Cucurella was on the left side, playing in that advanced left position. But okay, yeah. So you can see there. I mean, all our passing patterns, everybody seems to be involved. We don't have that isolated player on the left side like yours. But Cucurella, he used to play at. He used to play in that position, I think, at Brighton. So more left wing back. But which is interesting for a player in that really doesn't have a good cross in it. So he's not a very good.
He is.
Yes. But he doesn't actually cross the ball well. So he's a defensive player. But to have him in that kind of advanced position makes you nervous as to whether or not that's sustainable in the long run. So I guess they're dying for Garnacho to come back. And Gittings, but he did a good job. But our best player, I think, as usual, was Caicedo. Enzo Fernandez got the goal, and I think that kind of padded his stats a little. Because and here's the problem. Here's the problem I usually have with this player. Okay, I mean, he got dribbled past 3 times in a game. And that is generally his average. And that's a lot for a midfielder.
Yeah.
He's been one of the most dribble pass players in the league since he's been here. He also only won 3 of his 13 duels. Right?
Sheesh.
All right? That's a problem.
Wow.
Okay. And they want 150 million pounds for him, apparently. And I don't get it. So look, he was our best. He and Caicedo did their usual. So he got the goal. He's crashing the box well. Palmer had a disastrous game. Joe Pedro continues to impress me. I mean, his stats aren't great, but I really like how you can't get the ball off of him, right? You send that ball up to him, and there are very few defenders that are going to get it off of him. He will completely pass or get a shot off. He's an excellent player. We've heard of Barcelona's sniffing around, but he's a year into his contract. So I think the club has got the ability to keep him, even if he wants to go. But yeah, look, I mean, good result for us. I take no pride in beating up on Slot. I think he's a terrible manager. I think he's been found out. He started to implement his own style of play, I believe, from January last year. And that's where you see Liverpool's results nosediving. He always had a lot of many compliments to give to Maresca, his style of play. And you can see that he's tried to adopt the same kind of play at Liverpool, and it's not been working. So, I'm taking off Rio, a number of decisions that he made, which I think really gave us an easier game than I was expecting. But look, thankful for the result. And we did not need that 007 record, to accompany what we've been going through for the last few months.
And I think there's a question there from Asia. I think you sort of answered it, which was, is this the same Maresca? Is he playing the same Maresca ball that you didn't like? And you kind of talked about
McFarlane. I mean, slightly different. I mean, I don't have the technical eye to understand the differences, but I think what you see, he's definitely a lot more defensively solid than Rosinho was. I mean, we were conceding shots on goal like crazy for the last 4 or so games that Rosinho was there. So he's tightened that up a bit. And I think having Lavia, having more options in midfield has helped that a lot. But yeah, I can't stand Maresca. We'll show a few stats on that a little later.
Well, just to round things off, can you guys see the table?
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
Horrendous.
So Chelsea are 9th with 49 points, plus 6 goal difference. You've scored 55 goals so far this season with 49 conceded. Newcastle on 46 points with 50 goals scored and 52 conceded. Well, what can I say? We are where we are. It'll be interesting to see who finishes above who. You guys have got an emotional game against Tottenham coming up. You could possibly really hurt their chances of survival, but that's a conversation from another time. That's going to be a big, massive game, really. Is that a game before you? When do you play your final?
No, we played the final this weekend, so I think Spurs will be next week. Is it?
It's midweek, isn't it?
Yeah, midweek next week. And look, credit to De Zerbi, yeah, because that I want to say that he's probably the other manager, along with Maresca, that I never really fancied. But I think he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, like the injuries that he's got, and the fact that he's getting
crazy
out of that team is fantastic. So I'm actually starting to change my view on him, man.
He's had an impact on that team for sure.
We might end up keeping them up.
Say that again?
We might end up keeping them up.
Yeah, you might. But they looked from what, for instance, when I saw them against Villa, they were like sharp, they were intense. I thought, wow, this team can really hurt teams. Then it was a total opposite against Leeds, where they just look nervous. And I understand why they're nervous, but it was a home game and maybe that was it. But they just looked just way different. So it's hard to predict where they're at. Jamal here says, good stuff, Bobby. Interesting about McFarlane's style, usually just up an atom from an interim. That's true. You feel like he's a little bit more, more kind of focused, more methodical. He's kind of taking his time. You kind of feel like he's...
I would
putting
he's
his
just
imprint.
handed it to the players and told them to figure it out. I mean, that's not a charitable thing to say, but I mean, this guy's never really coached a game in his life, right? So if I were him, I would just come in and say, "Hey, here's the ball." But but I think with that pass, Matt, with the passing lanes that you showed there, that shows a team that's playing together. I mean,
100%.
right? So if you compare that to the Newcastle map, I mean, you can see the difference in what the coach is trying to do there, and actually at least how the team is playing together. Probably a bit more balanced team than what you had, to be fair. But look, I mean, credit to the guy. He went to City and he got a draw when he was doing the interim at first, and then to get this result here was pretty good. So there's a definite improvement on Rossignol.
Yeah.
LinkedIn
Liam. Well, I was going to say, I was just going to add, I think, less fans, because I think Woltemade was meant to do what João Pedro does for you guys, which is make the ball stick and involve the other players. But yeah, he's just hasn't got the confidence to be able to do that, unfortunately. But we showed the league table. Now let's move on to our predictions that we made at the start of, and I had to mix. Oh gosh, it's off. Why is there a blank thing there? Here we go. Right, so this is the predictions we made at the beginning of the season. Now, Bobby, you had two different predictions. I have to say, you had one prediction with me, and you've given me a different prediction this time.
What did I? Let's use the one I gave you.
No, I don't know if I got it. I think I took it. I think this is So this is the one that you had with me.
Just don't call me funny. Just don't call me.
I know that was crazy. I saw that. I was like, oh my word! How did I miss that? Sheesh. I'm sighing because gosh, how wrong we were. We both had Liverpool. Well, you had Liverpool number one finishing first, and Arsenal finishing second. We had the points up here as well. Obviously, we're a bit more closer with Arsenal, except for Arsenal. I don't know what points they're on. I can't remember what points they're on now, but they're obviously on the verge of winning the league. And credit to them. Obviously, this is in the back of Liverpool spending $500 million.
They might actually win the league with 81. That's the weird thing.
Wow.
Wait, am I going mad? I'm sure City can only get 81, can't they? City can only get 80 or 81 points.
The table is so compressed, huh? I don't know if you guys have looked at the average positions for the last 10 years. I actually did a study on that recently, and the way the bottom 10 teams are taking points off the top 10 is crazy. Mm-hmm. Right? Just between position 18 and 6, I mean, it's really, really tight. But look, Philip, I think we developed this using a methodology that you had. I don't think this was my judgment in terms of a prediction. You remember we went through a bit of an exercise where we were guessing. We did.
Was looking
That's
at
how
XG.
we developed this. Okay, got it. Okay. Now I understand why it's different.
We was looking at the XG, and I think the transfer window just finished, and the reason why Man United, for instance, are 10th is because they finished they had finished on 37 points the previous season.
Got it.
And what I said, the best they can do is get we gave them the benefit of the doubt, and we said, look, we'll give them a 20-point swing. They've had a 30-point swing. I don't know. That's pretty. There's not many people that can predict that type of thing. So we use the XG of what they could achieve from before. Looking at Newcastle and what I was going to say I greatly underestimated, but at the same time, I can be forgiven for this, which is the impact of not having Isak. Now, obviously, Wissa was supposed to step in and do that, but Wissa got himself injured, unfortunately, before he even started the season. There was a big impact on that. We had obviously big injuries at the most awkwardest times with Bruno Gomes off for 2-3 months as well. So that impacted us as well. But like I said, I predicted Newcastle to have 71 points. Bobby, you put it in Newcastle 71 points as well. We're on like, what did I just read? Are we on 46 points, something like that? So 30
We
points
are
off.
on 46 points, yeah.
Yeah, so we're like 25 points off there. Bobby had City on 71, I had them on 68 points. Interestingly, going on to Chelsea, we'll focus on Chelsea a little bit here, but Chelsea 69 points for yourself, Bobby, and Adam was 64. Let's focus on that a little bit more. Bobby, what's happening? well, actually, we're going to get to the stats a little bit more, but that's the kind of layout. I wanted to show Mitch's as well. So Mitch is on the right here. Mitch, you had City first, Liverpool second, Arsenal third, Newcastle fourth. So you're pretty much the same as us, really.
Yeah, it's all quite close, isn't it? It's just the top four is just a bit jumbled up.
Well, yeah, it's a bit jumping up, but you had Man United a little bit higher, to be fair, than what we had. It's though I think, where is Brighton and Everton now? Because I think we're not too far. I don't think you got it too far away. Villa obviously are having a fantastic season, and I did say in my previous show that if they win the Europa, I'll put them at they qualify for the Champions League. For me, they're like 2 years ahead of Newcastle in terms of their development. Is how I kind of see them. Whereas before we were kind of edging it this season. But I just think they've done really well. Adrian says, "Blimey, those predictions are a sight for."
Well, the ones on the prior screen, I think those were formulaic. I don't think those were our judgments. We had done that live, right, using some method.
He said, "No Nobel Prize for forthcoming for that methodology." Whatever the method was, it didn't work. It didn't work out. No, but you're right. But we actually had a methodology. It wasn't just picking it out. Okay, so essentially, in essence, the predictions and what actually happened in the league are very, very. I mean, none of us had Tottenham in the relegation zone. For instance, Bobby had them 6th. I had them 9th. Where did you have them? Mitch, you had them 6th as well. So, but who can predict they had like 12 players out, 14 players out? So essentially everything is mixed up and jumbled up and crazy at the moment. So Bobby, this brings us to your very well designed and constructed weighted performance ranking table of this season now. So for the folks that aren't aware, this isn't the league table, league table, but this is the weighted performance rankings, which Bobby would kind of explain to us. For some of you guys will already be aware of it, but Bobby will explain it to us as well. Obviously, we know that at the current standings, Chelsea are 9th, Newcastle are 13th, 14th. Bobby, tell us about the weighted performance ranking again for the folks, and to see how these are essentially the underlying stats from what we know, isn't it? Like this is the methodology, the new methodology. You can explain.
Sure. And I think I've gotten a little bit better at describing that. But before you go to this, I just want to jump back to the predictions there for a minute. And just to make a few comments about, what I think has happened. You see, what I didn't pay attention to, or what I should have been conscious of, is that the fixture list from Chelsea was actually a little bit lopsided. Not a little bit, a lot. So by the time you got to January, we had, based on average position in the table, the most difficult fixtures to the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So that means that when Maresca dropped 8 points at the beginning of the season, by about November, I knew we were in a top 10 race. And I have the receipts to prove that, because I actually had tweets out there saying we are in a top 10 race. Okay. So that was at least a month and a half before he left. The fixtures were horrific. So he had dropped 8 points when you compare it to the equivalent fixtures last year by the time he left. And then Rossignol actually only dropped 4 points, but he had the most difficult fix because he had the most difficult fixtures. Those were the games we were actually getting hammered in last year. So it's kind of expected that he would drop more points than Maresca. The problem is Maresca dropped 8. So we were always behind the 8 ball from the time we flubbed those early, easier fixtures, and it was always a catch up from then. But just going back to the performance table. So all we're doing here. Sorry, yeah.
Just to say, Bobby, this is it. Well, no, that's the weight performance table. Sorry, I thought that was the one that you was talking about earlier.
No, just go back.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So again, what we're doing here, we're trying to copy what the betting markets use as a methodology to do their predictions, right? So betting markets rely on math. All this table is simply doing is taking the net XG and the goal difference and combining them into one metric. So it is 2/3 expected goal difference and 1/3 actual goal difference to come up with that adjusted net XG figure there. And the whole logic about this is it's not just up to manager performance, which is what the XG table gives you. Actual results and execution by the players matter, and that's why we want to actually have 1/3 of the metric be goal difference, right? And what it has been exposing is that Aston Villa should have had a horrific season. There's no reason, right? So if you see the column on the right, that's the position that's off by to the actual points table. So Villa is in 5th, but there really should be 7 positions lower, is what we're saying here. Same thing with Sunderland. Okay, Sunderland again, right? Have been living off of individual brilliance. And at the end of the day, the points table is the points table. You can't argue with it. But you can't help but look at this and say, look, these two teams should be way lower in the table. Chelsea, on the other hand, should be way higher in the table. Newcastle is kind of normalizing, because that's why I was kind of telling you all season that the team is letting Eddie Howe down. But we can see that actually Eddie Howe himself, his performance is also dropping from an XG perspective.
Because your table, from what I remember, Bobby, like especially me looking at earlier in the season and maybe towards the halfway bit, like Newcastle always around like between like 4th and 6th, and then it started dropping a little bit more, and now it's 10th. Like this is the lowest I've seen Newcastle for a while on your table.
Exactly. So I mean, I think your XG has been dropping.
Yes.
So that's what's being reflected in the table, and I think in that instance you really can't blame the players for that. But I mean, generally, like Crystal Palace again, that's another team that's really that's the winner for a team letting down its manager, really, for the season, because they're in this they're 6 places higher than they are in the actual points table. So what I'm arguing is that they're really a 9th place team. But look, I kept bleating on about Brighton and Brentford. Those managers to me are outstanding. I like those guys. I think those are the managers of the future. I've been saying that all season. And so the predictive quality of this table is not necessarily fantastic. I don't know how the betting markets actually survive, but it really helps you to tell the story, right, about what's actually happening with these teams. Had Morgan Rogers not hit that purple patch, I think Villa would have been a 12th place team, right? That's basically the argument that I'm making here. Sunderland as well, right? They should be fighting relegation, right? Leeds is actually a well-managed team, and I actually didn't have a lot of time for that manager, but they should be higher in the table. So they like Leeds, Newcastle. Bournemouth is actually getting a little bit lucky, is what this table is showing. So that's how I use this table, right? To really try to explain what I'm seeing on the pitch and seeing in terms of the results. You're frustrated by Unai Emery. You can just see that there's some luck going on here. right? His process is just simply not sustainable.
Well, that's exactly it. Super interesting. Mitch, what's your take on it, especially kind of overall, but like especially looking at Newcastle? Yeah, what's
Well,
your thoughts
it's
on?
interesting to hear that we're slowly slipping down this table as the season goes on. Because up until about a month ago, I was quite firmly in the players are letting Eddie Howe down kind of camp. And the last few games I've watched, he seems to be making more and more mistakes as the season goes on as well. Well, mistakes from my point of view, like decisions that don't seem to make sense, and then it pans out we don't win games. But yeah, overall, it seems like a pretty fair way of figuring out where teams in reality, taking away moments of magic and little bits of luck here and there, where they would be in the table. But obviously those factors are what makes football brilliant, isn't it? You can have a team that doesn't perform really well with one standout player who does something just magical once a game and wins them 3 or 4 games in a row, and it completely skews the stats. So yeah, I think that's just what makes football beautiful, that you can't put a calculation into it to work out what's going to happen.
I think the next slide, Mitch, actually tells that story about the managerial performance. So, Philip, if you just move forward one.
Yeah, I was just going to add, though, in terms of there's a question there's a couple of things in the chat. Jamal says, even if you add 14 points from the Champions League group stage, still 11 points under your predictions.
Hey, but we're sat in 4th, though, if you do that right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's not too far off. And Adrian says, it's somewhat suspicious that whichever method Bobby uses, Chelsea overperform.
Listen, Adrian, I listen to this math, my friend. I like to take judgment out of my opinions, to be honest. It's just pure math, my friend.
He's on to you.
But I just wanted to zero in on what Mitch had said just now in his comments, right? So all I did, so I started actually preparing this table from game week 13. We'll have a full set from next season, obviously. But Mitch, you can see there that Eddie was doing a great job at the beginning of the season, right? And he was improving and trying to squeeze results out of a rock. But then it started to tail off, and you can see that gradual decline. And look, this has a lot to do with the UCL focus, right? Because that's around the time when you've been focusing on those knockout games in the Champions League. And, it's been a gradual downward movement over time. And, obviously the game against Forrest, he had a really good performance there. But it's been really a tail off, I think, from around the Christmas period for Eddie. And that kind of shows that lack of progression. Where are Newcastle fans on keeping him? I think I know where you guys are.
Well, most of my social media says that they all want him out.
How do you feel?
No, I'm firmly. Nothing that happens now from this point will make me want Eddie Howe to go. I feel like everything he's done up to this point, I think we're still 4th most points since he took over, and all of that stuff there. We've had good cup runs every single year. And last summer the club was a shambles, really, when you really look deep down into it. I think he deserves a summer where he can relax and chill out, let the club do all of the work behind the scenes to deliver him a team to go and perform next season. And I think he just deserves to walk into next season and have that, because he hasn't had that. He didn't have that this season at all.
Got it. But I mean, just taking a step back here, though, guys, right? If you were to compare our 2 starting 11s, right?
Yep.
I think I generally would take 3 out of 4 of the back line from Newcastle. So maybe just Reece James, but I'll have Lewis Hall. I'll have your two centre backs. Midfield is probably a bit of a toss up. Let's call it even. And maybe with João Pedro, Chelsea has the slight advantage with the striker. You have better left wingers. We probably have better right wingers. Right? Yep. So on balance, I think these 2 first 11s are pretty well matched.
Yep, right? I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do our mediocre managers at Chelsea extract this kind of performance? Because we're obviously outperforming on the coaching side all season. So I just want to get you to because I looked at this and that's what I thought. I was like, wow, we've got crap managers, like and a pretty even squad. Like, why is this happening? Is it injuries, you think?
What's your take, Mitch? I'll come after.
I think as much as 11 for 11, it's quite close. I think our squad or our starting 11, no matter how you put it out there, looks a bit lopsided. I think teams will know where we're going to attack game to game depending on who starts, because we haven't really got that many difference makers or players that are ready to take a risk to try and make a difference. Like 9 times out of 10, if something really creative happens, it comes from either Lewis Hall or Bruno Guimaraes. Outside of that, there's not much else that's going to happen. Jacob Murphy creates the odd chance because he whips in a good cross. Ramsey, when he's on the pitch every now and again, does something really good. But outside of that, there's not too much else that we're going to do to consistently create chances. And I think that makes us a little bit easier to defend against.
Yeah,
we also have some quite big press triggers as well. I've spoke about press triggers quite a lot, of even into last summer. Pope, Joe Linton, and Dan Burn and Jacob Murphy are all press triggers for teams for me. That if you get them in a certain position, that's the time to press. And I don't think Chelsea have 4 that you could trigger. You could put that 2 in there starting 11.
Yeah, and I think just on that January, I was just looking through it while you guys are talking, like especially that big dip in form. Bruno got injured on the 13th of February and was out for 12 games. And that is a big reason why, especially from February, we continued on that downward slope, really. And then kind of answering your questions, Bobby, in terms of, we've got, you've had 2-3 managers in the season, and none of them essentially they've been quite average. So why is we're 3 points behind you? So I think maybe why aren't we kind of doing a little bit better considering we've got a better manager? And I think it does come down to a bit of squad depth. I think you still have a better squad depth than what we have.
Have you seen our bench?
No. Have you seen?
I tell you, it's not £1 billion in players.
It's not $1 billion.
It is horrific.
No, yeah. I think there's definitely as much as squad depth, player quality has been an issue. There is a part of Eddie Howe, letting us kind of not being not kind of changing his tactics enough to change things around. As has been pointed out, 27, 28 points lost from winning positions. I mean, at some point, you've got to fix things. We were 2-0 up against a woeful Tottenham side, managed to draw that. We were 2-0 up against Chelsea at home. We were, 1-0 up against Sunderland at home. That game was insane. There's just so many in situations where you're like, come on, like, this isn't rocket science here. Like, what do we've got to do something about this. You've got to make some sort of a change in the game to slow the game down, and just haven't done it really. I would add maybe this finally, I think not having that killer up front until obviously we've just got a solid now, but not having Wissa up front as kind of being fit throughout the season has really hurt us. But yeah, it's been
difficult to explain, is it?
Yeah. It's just so many things. I did my show on it last time. I don't know if where I was trying to kind of explain it, various injuries are different. It's just like a mitigating factors, just so many mitigating factors that it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And someone might say this is an excuse or this. I get it, but it's just where we are really.
I just want to point out something here. My image here has an error in it, so that should be 2/3. So if you see the subtitle net XG star equals, that should be 2/3. That and sub should be removed. So that's just a typo. That's just a typo in the subtitle there. So it's actually 2/3. But look, I think
right.
Yeah, it's simple. It's just 2/3 expected goal difference plus
Yeah.
1/3 goal difference, right? And I know that this is the audience where I can find similar XG merchants, so who like to talk this language. But look, here's the problem. Because this performance graph is so weighted towards XG, I think the team and the team itself is less of an obvious issue here, and it's more the manager. And I think, and this is where I would recommend that Newcastle fans go back and have a good think. Why would these dead managers at Chelsea overperform Eddie for pretty much the entire season? Right, I think that's what this graph is kind of showing, and when you consider that the first 11s, barring injuries, because I think Bruno being absent was a massive loss, so let's not discount that either. But I think some of the guys you brought in from your bench, I think you've had a better bench than us. I think for majority of this season, at least in midfield. Definitely not at the striker position, but I think that's something that Newcastle fans should think about, because I don't see why Newcastle should be underperforming on XG for pretty much the entire season against these dead managers that we have. It's just something isn't computing in my mind with that outcome.
Yeah, I think, but from what I remember on your XG table, and even if I look at FODMOB and others, like we were underperforming our XG. So we were creating more XG, but our points were not reflecting that. So in large parts of it, the team was letting, like at least 2/3 of the season, I think.
But this has XG in it, right? So this would reflect that higher XG performance despite the actual goals.
So is it showing, like, you see this lift here? Is it saying that this is higher than the points that? Is this kind of showing the XG is higher than the points achieved? Is that what it's saying?
This doesn't have points, right? This is just XG and goal difference combined.
Okay, goal difference. Okay, so okay.
It doesn't have points involved, right? So it's just pure 2/3 XG, net XG. So you're taking the XG against as well, and goal difference, and just weighting it 2/3, 1/3.
So I think I was going back to this, like when you had this table, like you had Newcastle between 4th and 8th, really, for most 2/3 of the season. It's only really in the last third of the season that's kind of declined, is what I've seen, which is kind of similar to the FODMOBs and others. I know that FODMOB use a different method of doing their XG.
And which shows here, right? Which shows the decline that's happening here.
Yeah.
Newcastle, right? But it's the consistent underperformance of XG across the entire season that is causing this result here, and I question that.
Yeah, I think we had, as I kind of mentioned, obviously we had pretty, especially on hindsight now, we had a really, really bad summer, and the whole Isak situation not only was an absence of a player, but it's a psychological impact on the team as well. Wissa obviously came in, but he got injured before he even played the game. Woltemade although he had a good start, you couldn't rely on a 20-something-year-old in his first time in the Premier League to kind of hold the league together. We had our fullbacks injured during that time as well. So it needed a real kind of system change in order to be able to compete in the league as well as in the cup competitions. We have to remember as well, we've done pretty decently in the cups. We reached the Champions League last 16 for the first time in our history. We got to the semi-final of the League Cup, the quarter-final of the FA Cup. We only got knocked out by Man City on both occasions. Otherwise, we would have progressed, I think. So
Same story for Chelsea, though, Philip. Same story for Chelsea. Same matches, right?
No, it's true. I think, yeah. Go on.
No, I was just saying, so it's the relative performance that I'm focused on. But it's something to think about, right? So I'm not going to convince the true Eddie Howe crew that here's a problem, but here's the data.
It's like Adrian says, these chaps are as Eddieing as they come, I suppose.
Well, there you go. But let me just make a few comments on Chelsea itself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Look how when did Rosenia come? At the beginning of January, right? So it's quite interesting, isn't it? He's actually maintained a pretty good performance. Then about March, he hit a brick wall. And that's probably around the time that the financial statements got released.
Yeah.
But you can see with the fan noise and the agitation around that steady drop in Chelsea's performance, but they've maintained a pretty good level. There's not been a massive drop off with McFarlane. But that dip, at the end of March into April from Rosenia, I think that's really a more of a reflection, in my judgment, of the fixture list, playing against much away games against high quality teams. That was a factor. But then there was obviously the unrest. It's clear that the players were not playing for the manager, and I think I try to show that on the next slide. Yes. So I actually went into, and I don't know if you guys have done this kind of analysis for Newcastle, but I really wanted to understand what was happening with the managerial changes, right? So just going across the column, that column N, I don't know why it's an N, but that's the games played. Okay, I've sorted it out on the next one.
GP, much better GP games.
I know it's GP on the next one, trust me. But anyway, this is shots on target, both for and against net, right? You can see here, Rosenia was actually getting hammered with shots on target. And actually, this is something that I wanted to pick your brains on, right? Because the XG against is actually, so the next column is net XG from open play. Mm-hmm. And you can see that so that includes XG against. You can actually see that his net XG from open play is the best of the three managers. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the shots on target net, it's been horrific for him. I can't make sense of that. And then you can see the goal difference on the right, yeah? So Maresca had a pretty good goal difference. McFarlane, the worst. And then you've got Rosenia there, still negative, but not terrible. But he conceded a lot of shots in the Everton, Brighton. I just went back to look at some of the results. Brighton, Everton, and City games. So that would have been Brighton away, Everton away, City at home. Some really, really difficult fixtures. And that's really where he suffered in terms of shots on target. But the XG against was actually not bad. And that poor man is going to leave Chelsea with his reputation in tatters. But he was actually not that bad.
So he's got shots on target net, and it's got, what's the difference? It says plus 1.26 for Maresca and minus 0.92 for Rosenia. So what does that mean? Does that mean the Rosenia?
So that's Chelsea shots on targets minus shots on target against. Is that what it is?
He suffered more shots on target against than he created for.
Yeah.
Ah, right. And then the XG opposition net plus 15.
No, that's open play. XG from open play.
From open play. Okay. So he does better from open play. So what's the difference between open play here and shots on target here?
So remember, shots on target versus XG, right? Expected goals. So this expected goals from open play for net against, right? So it's
So
net.
this is what actually happened. So this is what actually happened, and this is what should have happened, essentially.
Well, the goal difference is what actually happens, right? That's the actual goals that now go in.
Yeah.
Expected goals from open play is the middle column, and then shots on target is the first column.
Oh, right. Okay, I get it now. I get it. So shots on target net. Yes, yeah, got it. So shots on target net minus 92. So he's conceded more than he's created.
Correct. Conceded more shots than shots that he's created for Chelsea. Correct. So he's conceded way more shots on target than the other two.
Okay. And XG from open play net, that is
XG for less XG against.
XG for less XG against.
So it has the XG against in it. Yeah. So he's done well. He's correct. He's the best manager of the three.
He's played less games than Maresca, though. Would that count?
Well, 13 is 19, I guess, but he had the most difficult games. I can tell you that if you look at the fixture list, right? So it's really been a mixed bag. I just looked at this and I said, look, I need to run this by Mitch and Philip because I don't get it. The XG against is decent. His net XG from open play is decent, but he conceded hella shots, and it's reflected in a pretty mediocre goal difference, which is the column on the right.
What do you reckon, Mitch?
You know what? It's hard to argue against that sometimes, but watching Chelsea under Rosinha makes me feel like this table sort of does XG a little bit of damage when people use it in conversation.
Very good point.
Because I like to form an opinion, and sometimes when I come on here and we discuss things and you bring up loads of different stats that I haven't looked at, if that then goes against my opinion, it makes me think a little bit. But then when I watch Chelsea, this is kind of what it's done. It's like I don't understand how Rosinha was getting more XG than other managers in games from when I watch Chelsea. It just doesn't seem to make any sense, especially when he's getting a lot less shots on target as well. It's an odd one.
And his XG against was not horrific. Okay, I can't remember the exact number now, but XG against from open play was not horrific. Now, here's the thing, right? And Mitch, you touch on a point here. When you have Garnacho and Enzo Fernandez in a team, those two spammers will rack up a lot of XG.
Yeah.
They're always spamming, and every time they spam, XG gets registered. And I think that's how they're able to fudge these XG numbers. And that's why Chelsea potentially is so high up in the XG table, because we got two of them in the team. They'll take a shot when it's not on, and they'll get some XG for it.
And then if that shot's then off, if most of them shots are also off target, it suffers in the shots on target net as well.
Well, there we go. Right? There we go. So now this is another exhibit, by the way, and this is my last slide, guys. I know the chat must be going nuts with boredom here.
No, they're here for it. We're here for it.
But I've corrected this one. So there's the games played. Now this is X goals on target. And Phil, I'm relying on your expert knowledge of XG and X got. Okay. I see you leaning forward, so you really want to study this one. Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong here. X got is the manager puts the player in the position which registers an expected goal based on that location and the amount of defenders in front of it.
Yeah.
X goals on target, expected goals on target, is what the player then applies to the shot in terms of the quality of the player. So if you have a really good player, right?
No. The quality, not the quality of the player, the quality of the shot. So it
Sure.
doesn't matter about the player. Yeah.
Well. I mean, I would think a poor quality player will not deliver a high quality shot. So I'm.
It doesn't look at it.
Or,
It doesn't look at
oh,
the
really?
player. It doesn't
Oh,
look
I
at
know
the
it
player.
doesn't look at the player, but I'm just saying that quality players will deliver quality shots in general, right? So,
But it will come
is
up
that a
as
fair thing to say?
but it will come up as a low XG. So you can have a very low XG, but it's a quality player that gets it in. But that won't be. You won't know that. It won't be reflected as that. Does that make sense? So you can have a quality player who creates a goal from like a 0.01 chance, which is super low, right? But it's a quality player that does it. But it would still come up as 0.01.
Got it. Well, I've always said that Maresca is a lucky man and has been a lucky man for a long time. You've heard me say that on this channel, Philip.
Yeah.
And you've always scolded me that, luck doesn't last for 18 months. Okay. Okay. He must be good. Right. But look at his XGOT 4. Right. So in other words, players are doing magical stuff with the shots when they're playing for him. He's got the highest XGOT 4 of the 3 managers. And then he's been lucky because the players against him are actually equally not providing the same level of quality on their shots. Okay. So this is why I came to you late. I think I gave you 3 images first, and then I came across a 4th one. I was like, I have to put this in front of Philip because this proves that this man was incredibly lucky. He was lucky with teams against him, right? The other 2 managers are facing higher quality shots from the players against them. So I'd say that Rossini is probably the most unlucky, right? And then Maresca, the players were actually doing magical things on the ball in front of goal for him. They were improving his expected goal position that he put them in. So I mean, I found it to be an interesting data point, but it validates that poor Rossinia. I think he's been a bit unlucky.
What I'll only say this, and I don't know if you remember. Well, 2 things. The first one is with the shots against. It's not for me anyway. It's not that Maresca's lucky. It's because what this says, or it's an indicator of when it's 1.2 against it. First of all, they're all high. That's very high still per game. If you're 1.24 against, that means you're guaranteed to at least concede a goal. Like obviously you're above 1, isn't it? The other one is that.
So sorry, for XGOT or for XG?
For XGOT against.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've got XGOT against and you're a 1.24, that you're more or less very likely to concede at least 1 goal. That's if your XGOT against 0.2, you're very good, right? Teams are gonna right. So they're all very high anyway. So defensively, and we talked. I don't know if you remember, Bobby, when we first did the XG for Chelsea, and I was saying like when we first got onto this XG road, and I was saying Chelsea is burning the candle at both ends. They create a lot of chances and they concede a lot of chances. This is under Maresca, right? Yeah. And you did it for 2 straight seasons, and that's where we got into the debate about. Well, he can't. If he's been doing it for 2 straight seasons, you can't be that lucky. And so but just in terms of what you got here is since he's got the lowest XGOT against compared to all the others, what it says is that he's actually got a better defensive setup.
But hold it, Phil, let's just make sure that we're not confusing XG with XGOT.
Okay.
Because remember, those could be low XG against, but because the player applied some skill, it's a higher XGOT than the XG. Does that make sense? Am I understanding the stat correctly?
It's not dependent on the player. It's dependent on the quality of chance that team concedes. So if, for instance, Chelsea, like every game, there's like a point blank, they're conceding like point blank chances compared to teams. There's no defenders, for instance. They're always like 1-on-1, right? It doesn't matter about the player. It's about the quality of shot and the quality of the chance itself. So are there defenders in front of the ball? Are there, is the person right in between the sticks? or are teams having to take shots outside the goal constantly, and which makes it obviously lower XG. So the quality of player, it doesn't matter. The quality of player doesn't matter. It's the quality of the chance and or the quality of the shot itself. So
the shot quality. So we're just talking about shot quality here, right? Because the quality of the chance is XG. What we're talking about here is quality of the shot as X got. Is that a fair understanding?
But it's both. So it's related. Yeah. So it's related.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Where I was confused as well. So it's Okay, yeah.
So go on.
No, I was just trying to figure out exactly what it was myself. I was just reading something on Google because I was confused as hell for a second there. But it is the quality of the chance measured against the quality of the actual strike of the ball, basically. So if it's a good shot, a good chance with a good shot, you get a higher X got.
Yeah,
perfect. So it's a combination of the two. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's meant to be objective. So it doesn't. So this is unfortunately this is a true reflection that Maresca is the better manager.
Is it?
in terms of chances conceded and chances for, he's better than both of them.
Yeah, because this stat sort of falls into like your X got. So your X got 4. If you've got a higher one of those and your XG is like it means you're creating chances for the right people. If your team's got a high X got stat 4, because you're creating chances for your strikers who are likely to take a better shot.
Yeah, nearly 2 goals worth. Nearly 2 goals worth.
So go back to the prior slide for a minute. Let's compare those XGs again.
I have to go back. I have to come out of the screen because this is the last one. We'll give it. Let me take this off.
While you're searching for that, it was interesting because I use it like a stats site every now and again when I'm doing predictions here and there to see what I think scores are going to be in games. And it's got an expected points table on it that looks awfully similar to the one that you had up from that Bobby made earlier.
But that's because it's the XGOT table or XG table?
No, it's an expected points table across
points table, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks awfully similar to what you had up earlier.
Well, that's because I'm heavily weighted XG, right? I'm 2/3 XG, so it has a lot of XG baked into it, which would reflect the points. Phil, so the reason why I asked you to go back here is that, so looking at that middle column, who's the best manager again?
Shots on target net. This one?
No. Middle column. The XG from open play net.
You have to remind me what this one means again. What does it mean again?
XG from open play. So that's the net XG. So
created goals.
Correct. Created goals against
the net of created goals against. So overall, taking all of that into consideration.
Correct. You're taking XG4 from open play minus XG against from open play is that XG open play net number. And you can see that Rafinha is actually leading the three of them. So that's pure manager and nothing to do with the player taking the shot. But I think to Mitch's point, maybe Rafinha is not delivering it to the right players.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, and he's had 13 games. I'd love to see how it would end up after 19. There's a couple questions as well, or there was a couple comments. James has also Phil say hi. Good to see you, James. Hi to Mr. Blue Chelsea for me. That's Bobby Fairview. Hi to you, sir. Adrian says, I'm worried that none of these stats take the prevailing wind into account.
Adrian, I'm informed today.
Big up to my man, Registered Kev. Always good to see you. God bless you. Says, big up Phil and the panel. I just have to mention, if you beat West Ham, you will forever have an enemy in me. Jeez. Well, I'll take that into consideration, Registered Kev.
I said this a few
Big
weeks
up.
ago when it was coming up to the Arsenal game. Don't rely on us to do any favors for anybody
No.
right now.
We told you guys, exactly. We told you guys. Big up my man
Big
Preach.
up,
God bless you.
Preach.
Big up the gang. Good to see you, sir. All right, so we need to do one for Newcastle, I suppose. But yes, let's do it. Let's get into. Did you want to conclude anything on this?
No. I think I shared a lot of the information, just analyzing that original graph there, just where we show the two clubs and the manager performance over the season. So yeah, the last two slides were really just a deeper dive into what's going on, because obviously we had three managers to consider, right? So I wanted to show who was contributing what. So
were you hoping that this was going to be like conclusive evidence that Maresca's not a good manager? Was that?
I'm on crusade, and I think my XG from open play proves that point. But I do take Mitch's point. I take Mitch's point on board. It went to the right players.
No, to be fair though, it kind of did the job, because I think most people have agreed that Rosenior is a terrible manager, and there was a discussion of who is a better manager between him and Rosenior. So it shows that Maresca is also pretty useless, to be honest with you.
So there we go. That makes me feel better. We can talk about Newcastle now.
I just got that. Bobby knows that, because when we first did it, they went on this XG journey. We did it for Chelsea, we did it for Newcastle at the time. I think that's where we got our tables from, our predicted table from, Bobby, as well. And we both were like, the Maresca thing was like the stats over like 18-month period were crazy, and it was so similar, like high chance creation, high chances conceded. I'm like, how's this guy doing it? So that was crazy, right? So let's get on to players transfers on the final part of the show. Why can't I not find the tip box? Here we go. Hide this. All right, brilliant. And this is between Chelsea and Newcastle. A couple things there. So a couple sources a couple players that we're going to be talking about, both from Chelsea and both from Newcastle, and kind of the players that are linked. The first one on the left is Chelsea seriously looking into a deal to sign a Newcastle attacker. This is a Woltemade. We're going to talk about that as well. Chelsea also, this is a Content Athletic, as well as other teams. Anthony Gordon's Newcastle future, what we're hearing about Chelsea, Bayern and Arsenal interest. And the final one, third, which I don't know how much we're going to discuss, but Chelsea set sights on Sandro Tonali. Now, don't worry, folks. We are going to talk about players that Newcastle are interested in Chelsea, but that's how we're going to kind of divide up the show of this part, which is Newcastle players that Chelsea are interested in, and Chelsea players that Newcastle are in. Did I say that right? Newcastle players that Chelsea are interested in, and Chelsea players that Newcastle are interested in. So I'm going to go over to Bobby, and before I go over to Mitch in the chat. So this is from The Athletic, and this is regarding Gordon. Obviously, Gordon's got high speculation anyway. Bayern Munich are apparently putting in bids. Gordon's not even getting on the bench. Eddie Howe saying, I've got to think about the future. He's giving those kind of quotes there, like a deal could be done, which has got me more interested about who could be replacing him. But essentially, it's from The Athletic. So this isn't just like some source from, an ITK type of thing. So Chelsea are interested in signing Gordon, with any potential transfer not believed to be dependent on Chelsea qualifying for next season's Champions League. I do find this hard to believe, Bobby. just put it that way. I don't see Gordon leaving one club that's not in the Champions League to go to another club that's not in the Champions League, even though Chelsea are where they are in terms of global status. Chelsea are keen on the player, as they were in 2022, which is true, when they were interested in signing him from Everton, that was under Tuchel, but have other priorities in the near term. The club are trying to finish the season strongly after the poor run of results that ended up costing Liam Rosini his job, and their primary focus is finding the next head coach. And finally, he says, however, a list of targets has been drawn up, and they have identified Premier League ready players as a priority for their recruitment. I would love to hear what Bobby thinks about this. This summer, according to sources, they want players with top league experience. Playing to the gallery here, who are used to the tough schedule of playing in 4 competitions in a season. They are also looking for players who are emotionally mature. Jeez, I feel like someone I think the author is like, do you know what? I'm not writing this. You just write, and you know, whoever the Chelsea guy's paying him, said, "I'm going to write this." So I'm emotionally mature and have a strong character. So Bobby, I can hear the laughter ringing out. Well, first of all, yeah, you tell it what your initial thoughts are, Gordon, the transfer, what they're saying in the news. What's your take on all of this?
I can tell this is your not so subtle attempt to get me to talk about finances at Chelsea.
No. I don't want you to do it. No. Honestly, I don't.
I will bite. I will bite because otherwise this section is going to be very short because we are not buying any of these players. Okay, I can tell you.
Hold on. We're going to let this section marinate, Bobby. Don't just let's kick it off with Gordon.
Sure. Look, I would love to have him. I think we've been, as you said, we've been keen on this player since Tuchel, right? Tuchel really loves this guy. Woltemade. Yeah. Let me just shout out Woltemade for a minute.
Yeah,
big up to you. He's one of the staples in here. Yeah, look, Gordon will be excellent. Okay, we would love to have him. Right age, got the experience, Champions League experience. Is he going to downgrade and come to a club that's not being in the Champions League next year? I don't see it happening. I don't know what you're going to be charging for him. I would think that you want more than £60 million when you consider the English tax and his experience, Champions League experience, EPL experience, etc. These are not the players that we can afford right now. We've spent all of our money. Right? Clear Lake has burned what? 1.8 billion. Okay. And there's only 400 million left in that fund that they use to raise the money for Chelsea. Okay. And the fact that we're losing 500 million in cash a year, 400 million in the till is not a lot. What that means is, and they've actually explicitly disclosed this in the financial statements, that Chelsea needs to sell players to fund its operations. Right, so you will see a lot of chatter still in the YouTube community by a number of people who've not yet copped on that there's actually no money to spend this summer. So any manager coming to Chelsea must decide to come into a high-pressure job where he does not have a transfer budget. And any transfer budget that actually is available is going to be from your next segment, which is from player sales. So I'm sure you were waiting for the garage sale that's going to take place starting in June. So I don't see us being able to afford a Gordon. I think we'll probably move Garnacho on if somebody will buy him. I think Gittins has been too injury prone to be put up for sale. So we do need to find a solution on the left side. But I cannot see us paying the money for Gordon.
I was going to say, it must be disappointing because he bought Gittins, Garnacho, I know I don't know the quality of play, but it must be it must be disappointing that you haven't got it right with the wingers just yet.
I do. Go on.
No, I was going to say, like I said, I feel like this is really playing to the gallery. This report here, when they're saying, yeah, they're looking for players who are emotionally mature. I'm like, yeah, you've been reading the comments and watching the YouTube channels, haven't you? Like this is like like we're trying. Like I'm not even sure that this is even serious. Like, and I think this is what I hear Chelsea fans complaining about. Obviously, kind of catching on to the PR, getting really, really cynical about the PR, Bobby, as well. Like whenever
it's
Chelsea
important that we did. It was important because
Yeah.
we've been fed a lot of crap. And it's actually getting worse. This is obviously something somebody said, write me a statement that will help me tamp down the protests next week. Okay, so ChatGPT came up with this crap here. Okay. That language is familiar because I think that's the language they used before the last protest. There's a protest this weekend coming up. And again, this is why you're now seeing them ramp up the whole Xabi Alonso coming to Chelsea thing. I don't see why Xabi Alonso comes to Chelsea after failing at Real Madrid. Like the outcomes are obvious here, particularly since a number of these first team players have got to be sold to fund operations in a normal Champions League year. This is a year now where we have no Champions League football. So it's even worse. So I think, to your point, you smell the rat here. I think this is just a distraction. The only comment I would make is what's happening at Bayern, and is Gordon going to be able to compete with Diaz? And I mean, maybe they need depth on the left wing. I don't know who their other left winger is.
Good depth. Good depth.
I think that might be
sure.
the play. That might be the play, right? But I mean, for league domestic games there anyway, do you need a player of the quality of Gordon? I don't know.
Even Barnes would be enough for the Bundesliga, in my opinion.
Sure.
James says, I don't know what's funnier, Chelsea moving to Eddie's old ways of movement, and we've now swapped over with them. Before I go over to Mitch, he says, so Jamal says, what would everyone accept for Gordon? 180 million? What do you say, Mitch?
That's kind of in the ballpark, in and around. I think it'll be sort of between 70 and 80 if he goes this summer. I'd be shocked if it's lower than that, and I'd actually be slightly surprised if we get more, to be honest. I don't think he stays in England, so I'd be probably say more 70 than 80 because he's likely to go abroad.
I think we've got two sets of prices as we would have had for Bruno. I think if our star players who might go, I think there's a price for overseas clubs or clubs outside the Premier League, and for clubs in the Premier League. So if you're Liverpool, Chelsea, whoever, is going to go into the 80, 90s, 100 millions. If you're Bayern Munich or Juventus, whoever, it's going to be around the 70, 75 million mark for you. I think that's what it is, in my opinion. The next player, Woltemade, is an interesting one. Now, this is from Cy Phillips, Bobby, who I'm sure you're well familiar with. Is he a Chelsea correspondent? Like a Chelsea?
He's a Chelsea fan. He's a Chelsea fan as well.
Is he in the know? Is he in the know kind of Chelsea fan, right?
He's been known to hang out in Finkelstein's office. Yes, Finkelstein is one of the directors responsible for fan engagement.
Okay. So then, my cynical hat is back on. But essentially, this is, and to be fair, this link to Baltimore has been going on since February, January stuff, and this is the more recent one. But essentially, what you said. So this is to do with Newcastle's link to Delap, but they're saying that Chelsea are also interested in Woltemade. Apologies, the top part is missing, but it says opportunity to sign him if Newcastle do not make an approach for Delap. Phillips states. This is a quoting Phillips. Phillips states via his Substack, they are aware that Newcastle are in need of selling some players this summer, and Woltemade isn't exactly happy there right now. Okay, whilst he is embracing his role, he would always prefer to play as a striker. Okay, and Chelsea are looking to offer that. The journalist adds, and this is on top of the other stuff, kind of connecting Woltemade to Chelsea. I mean, Bobby, first of all, we've talked quite a bit about Woltemade at the beginning. I do think that Woltemade suits a more possession-based side, of which Chelsea are. But what's your kind of initial feeling? Do you think he suits Chelsea? Do you think that's the type of player, striker you want?
It would have been better to ask me this question 6 months ago. Because I think what I watched against Forrest, I'm questioning whether or not he suits the league at all.
Yeah.
But look, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because I did like him when he had his confidence. Right. So I think he's a different player if he's managed. And look, Eddie Howe is one of the best managers in the league. Okay. So I'm not sure that there's a manager that we're going to get who will extract more out of him. I think Eddie Howe, to be fair to him, is probably not using him because he's just not suited to this league. However, I'd be happy to swap him for Delap. So
hold on. We're going to get to Delap in a minute.
Well, you mentioned it just now, and if we're talking about a swap deal, I think I am gonna imagine that Chelsea is gonna be pivoting towards cashless transactions going forward. So that would represent a massive loss, I think, for you, because you paid £50 million more for this player than we paid for Delap, right? But from a sporting perspective, I would definitely gamble on a swap. I think it works for our finances if we did a kind of a swap deal. If he does suit a possession-based style, I think we need to think about who our next manager is as well. And then we also need to think about how many players from the first team that we're actually going to be selling. Because the Chelsea that we're looking at now and the managers that we're seeing now are not going to be the managers and players in September, I don't believe. So there's so many variables.
Adrian,
that's difficult.
Adrian says Bobby's trying to pull our pants down.
Why me to do it? I thought you boys wanted to laugh. I'll be delighted to do that swap.
No, over Woltemade, I think. Over Woltemade.
What, you mean trying to get it? Pull your pants down, trying to get him on the cheap? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Because
you were saying.
Go on.
Mitch, what's your take on Woltemade? Do you think we should keep him for another season? Would you be open to selling him? What if he were to keep him? What would change if he were to still be here next year? What does that kind of indicate to you? Like, and I mean, we kept him not because we couldn't sell him, but we kept him because we actually wanted to keep him. What's your kind of overall take on Woltemade?
So I think the next two games will tell us the story. Eddie Howe's changed the system ever so slightly in these last few games of the season. Well, I say ever so slightly. We play more of a 4-4-1-1 at the minute. Yeah. If Woltemade starts in that similar role that he started at the weekend in the next two games, it kind of says to me there's a plan to get him playing in that role next season, and they're going to buy players to suit him playing in that role next season. Him individually as a player, I think he's a fabulous player. I was delighted when we signed him. I watched him previously at both his previous clubs. I watched him in the Euros under 21s. I thought he was someone that was outside of the limit of player we could buy. And I still believe that player's in there. He just needs a really good summer behind him. He needs to be properly entrenched into how Eddie Howe wants him to play and set up in the system. And I still think he'll thrive. He's not quite right for the league stuff. It looks it at the minute because he looks a bit lightweight, but he's a big guy. He can build into this league, I feel, and I think he can still do damage. My worry is if we sell him, at some point he's going to come back and haunt us. And that's the thing that worries me.
I'm going to get to this comment to Bobby in a moment, but for me, you almost had me sold on Woltemade there. When I heard, like, the more I hear about teams used to kind of looking at Woltemade, I can feel in myself saying, we need to sell him. And again, credit to Craig Hope, journalist. He said it even when Woltemade was in form and scoring goals. He was saying Woltemade is a fabulous player who's the missing piece for another team's puzzle. So I could see him going to a possession team like Chelsea or outside the Premier League and really thriving, especially outside the league.
Yeah. But what if we change our puzzle?
I wouldn't want to change our puzzle for him because then...
Yeah, but no, that's my feeling on it is we're not changing it just to suit Woltemade. We're changing the puzzle to evolve as a team, and Woltemade is a piece of it. We're going to see a couple of other players that come in that fit the puzzle quite well, and we'll see it all come together. And that's based on if we see the same system with Woltemade in that role the next two games.
I think it's telling that we went from Delap to Ekatike to Larson to Sheshko all the way before we got to Woltemade. And unless Woltemade gets the ability to play with his back to goal, add some aggression to his play, show for the ball, I just don't. it's a risk to see if we can cut. Whether I think it's more of a risk to keep him than it is selling him. But I'm like 60-40 on that.
No, I get it. I get it.
But I want to be so wrong on it. Honestly, I want to be so wrong.
But remember
go on.
we was after Ekatike, but to keep Isak. And people didn't believe us when we said it because we could see how they work together. Same with João Pedro. He was the first choice in where I'm thinking Eddie Howe wants to play Woltemade now. Whereas your Larsons and your Seskos and them guys were doing what Will Osula's doing at the minute. So we still need that guy to do what Will Osula's doing at the minute with Woltemade and then the wide guys that actually work in the system as well.
Yeah, I think the corridor of uncertainty is, can he do it? Because João Pedro's exceptional with his back to goal.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
Woltemade isn't.
James can get out of here. It's not happening.
Yeah, he's going to Barcelona, if anything. He's going.
Crap.
Yeah, if anything, he's going to Barcelona. He's heading onwards and upwards. Another player that Eddie Howe was right about, but again, nobody's going to give credit for that when they say, "Ooh," when the fans that are kind of critical says, "Oh, this will get." Don't let Eddie Howe anywhere near the transfer room and da-da-da-da. Okay. All right. It seems to be all the players that he's missed out on that he really wanted they only seem to ever go in upwards. But anyway, what does he know? I'll miss out Tonali for a minute because I'm pressed for time a little bit, and everything that Bobby said is we haven't got any money. Unless you wanted to add something, Bobby. Like say you say
this is not happening, man.
It's not enough.
No chance, right? Like we can't afford this player. Oh, we don't, but do we need him? I don't think we need him either, right? I think we're pretty.
Well, if Enzo goes
to the pitch, we're pretty good.
But if Enzo goes to Real Madrid,
yeah, but Enzo has to play a bit further forward, right? We can't have him getting dispossessed, as much as he does right in front of our defense. So I wouldn't see him as a replacement for Enzo. So he's occupying the same spaces as Lavia and
but Lavia, come on. You see him like once every three months.
Well, sure. I mean, he's back. He's not played a full 90 yet. But Andre Santos as well. I mean, we've also got another kid on the bench. I can't even remember his name now. He's not played that much. That we got from somewhere in Portugal. But we've got kids lined up behind the usual starters, right? Who are on the brink of coming through in this team. So I can't see the need for this. There are too many emergencies that we need to fix on the left wing and at center back and at goalkeeper for us to be focused on this particular player. So I did this one for sporting reasons. I don't see us doing it.
I got a question from Mitch. And fair enough, Bobby. I can see where you're coming from. I've got a question from Mitch in a moment. Ches says, I don't think we should change the way we play for Woltemade. It's probably more for Mitch there. Just to keep him. However, if we change to a position style because it's what we need to do, then I'd want to keep Woltemade. Is that along the same lines you're saying, Mitch? Do you kind of see it the same way?
Yeah, I feel like if we keep him, it's not just to change the system for him. I feel this is us pivoting to a system that we can play that will move us forward as a team, because we've seen over the last, each time we get into Europe, the system we play at the minute isn't sustainable over a full length of the season. Mm-hmm. We need to pivot to something different to make that sustainable.
Yeah, I think it's more to do with our player depth in terms of quality.
Yeah, but then if you factor in SCR and all of that, we're not really going to be able to. It's going to take us years to correct the depth issue. So I think we need to approach it from a different angle. I think we could have done it this season. We should have upgraded Pope to Trafford. We should have got João Pedro instead of who we got. And I think our quality already rises. I don't think we're that far away from it. Like, I think literally it's a transfer window if we get it right. I think we're a few more away from it on the depth perspective, but Okay, that's fine.
We're on the we're on the
Midfield
precipice
wise,
of greatness. We're on the precipice of
midfield
greatness.
wise, I agree. Our midfield is set up to go on four fronts, but I don't think any other position in our team is set up to go on four fronts. I don't think our front three is. I don't think the defense is at all. We've got good players in every first position across the board, but you look below them, there's the drop off is way too vast.
Nah, I see that. Is that you, Bobby? Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to react to something that Mitch said. And it seems as though Newcastle fans are not optimistic about this transfer window. I'm incredibly optimistic. I am expecting I am expecting a Liverpool-style transfer window for Newcastle this summer. They have just loaded up the bazooka and they've got cash and they're ready to go. They've also
Right? I think this is going to be our most exciting window in forever.
Okay, so we on the same page then. We on the same page. I'm expecting big things.
Yeah, I'm expecting the same. Yeah, I'm expecting there to be a lot of changes at Newcastle this summer, and I don't think many fans are expecting it to be as fast as it's going to be.
I don't think the fans understand how much money has been put into Newcastle. I don't think they during the last few months. I also don't think they understand how they've restructured the revenues to make sure they remain compliant after spending all those funds. So, I mean, if we sit down in September and we're having similar conversations, I'm going to be really disappointed because I think the tools are there. I think your new CEO is sending the right signals. I'd be excited if I was a Newcastle fan.
Yeah, excited and frustrated because we might be doing it without Europe. That's the most annoying thing for me.
But that might not be a bad thing.
It might not be a bad thing, but to steal a conference place would have been amazing.
I think you guys are going to be able to focus on domestic stuff and progress nicely. But Phil, I'm taking over your show, so carry on, sir.
No. This is what it's about. I'm trying to get the chat in as well. James says, Eddie can have some control, but it needs to be left to Ross to do the full job, getting in the right age players from different leagues. We're not likely to get Kamara anymore. Why do you think that, James? Because, I think Liverpool are interested in now as well, but we'll see. That's obviously Lamine Kamara from Monaco, but let me know if you've heard any updates on that, James. Ches says, I'm very optimistic for this transfer window. Listening to Bobby about a month ago. Yeah, we had a really good show with Bobby last month.
Big up, Chaz. Glad you were there.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. So where we went through the finances, we went through the finance work in the background over the last year is what gives me the excitement. Adrian, there's what to say. Title challenge. Let's do it.
Why not? Why not?
Wait, one game a week.
In Europe. Yeah.
One game a week, don't rule it out.
So I think Bobby, you got like 450. I think you said that about 450 million has moved into Newcastle's bank account. I do think some of that's going to be for our training ground, but it's still a lot of money. There's a lot of money that's been moved.
I was actually short by 50 million, by the way. I think I sent you a note telling you that.
Yeah. So you went from 400 million to
more money in. Yeah, there's actually more money that's come in since September.
Jesus.
And what's exciting is that I don't know if I told you this, Bobby, but Mitch is aware, is that our approval process, which used to be in Saudi, has moved to a localized position here in England, meaning that once the players and deals are lined up, rather than waiting for somebody in Saudi, which took too long to approve it, it's approved here. So it's a lot more quicker. So the money's ready, the players are ready. So hopefully we'll get them over the line a lot sooner. So speaking of players getting over the line, folks, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe. I don't know how many likes we've got at the moment. We haven't broken the 20 barrier for ages. So let's try and break the 20 barrier if we can. So let's speak about, rather than Newcastle players leaving, let's talk about those that might come in. Right, so we spoke a little about this, and there was also a quote from someone, not a quote from somebody around Jackson. I'm going to add to this conversation in a moment if I can find it. Somebody said something about Jackson. Who was it, guys? I saw someone say something about Jackson. remind me, folks, if you can resend that quote about Jackson. It was a question to Bobby as well. So this is from Ben Jacobs. Newcastle strongly linked to Chelsea's forward for summer transfer report. And this is what Jacobs has said. I said this is kind of like last couple of weeks. It says, according to Give Me Sports, Ben Jacob, Newcastle's preference sides with bringing Delap and not Jackson at St. James's Park. So this is a direct quote from Jacobs. It says, there is an interest in Liam Delap, particularly, I'm told, from Newcastle United, who will add another striker this summer, Jacob said. Nicholas Jackson is going to return. We'll ask a bit Bobby about his thoughts on that as well. The obligation to buy for Bayern was always near impossible, but links with Newcastle are new ones at this stage, are wide off the mark. If Newcastle, according to Jacobs, are going to raid Chelsea for a striker, it would more likely be Delap than Nico Jackson as of now. Before I get to Bobby, Mitch, if you had a choice between Jackson and Delap, who would you want Newcastle to go for? Forget wages and everything else, just player quality.
Without a system change, Nicholas Jackson. For me, I feel like he would do a lot of damage in the system that we play, and I think his link-up play as a striker would bring someone like a Woltemade, if they were playing just behind him, into play. He's more a much more refined version of Will Osuna for me. As much as Osuna's done great, it must sound like I'm slagging him off all the time because I don't say much positive. I think he's done fantastically well, but he is very erratic to be your main number 9 striker.
So you've gone for?
I'd go for Jackson in our current system. Overall, as a player and as a striker, and who has a higher ceiling, probably Liam Delap, but I think he needs to play in a slightly different system to what we play.
Bobby, thanks for that, Mitch. And there's a lot to think about there. I think I did a show about them too as well. Bobby, this is a question for you and kind of adds on to what Mitch was saying. Robojog says, Bobby, I know Jackson isn't a fan favourite. What his numbers are exactly the same as Pedro, who everyone raves about, and I have a slight preference for Jackson over Pedro, to be honest. What about you, Bobby? I mean, do you kind of share that sentiment in terms of Jackson kind of hard done by the fans, and in fact, he's possibly even either on the same level or even better than Pedro? Who would you be more upset about? And this is my own one. Who would you be more upset about leaving, Jackson or Delap? I think I already know the answer to that. But go on.
Well, look, I mean, Pedro is quality, right? And I've been very pessimistic about a number of the signings. Pedro, I gave a chance to genuinely. I think he was being kept on the bench at Brighton, and I always questioned why. And a number of his goals were, I think half of his goals were from penalties last year. But just the way he holds up that ball and how clinical he is, he doesn't really miss, right? And that, to me, is a quality that is irreplaceable, right? When he is bearing down on goal, he will score, right? There's little that he ever misses. I think that's the problem that Jackson had, but he was a much younger player, right? A lot of burden was put on Jackson when he was young. And I think his background, he actually didn't come up in a professional system either. So a lot of the technique that was required in terms of striking the ball, etc., he strikes the ball with a floppy-ish foot, right? So this is why he misses a lot. But if you look at his season in Bayern, he's actually not played that much. For the limited minutes that he's actually had some pretty good output. And it's in the Champions League and in the league, not in the cup, right? So he's actually doing really well. He had a terrible red card the other day. So I think his disciplinary issues are part of the problem. And hopefully, he fixes that over time. But you can see a player that's maturing. You're seeing, he doesn't have the colorful hero and all these distractions feeling that he's it anymore. He's actually going about his business in a very humble way, and he's actually taking advantage of the minutes. I think he'll be a fantastic addition. He can play in different systems. I mean, Newcastle, in my mind, and I know this is not the safe space to say this, But I suspect that there's going to be a reset with the manager and a rebuild this summer. And the question is, what style of play will you have? Liam Delap looked good because he was at Ipswich, who was playing a low block and had lots of space to run into on the break. And, you know, his individual quality didn't really matter, right? And the individual quality is simply not there. Okay. I think he's a championship player. But he, you know, he's one of these guys who can push himself around. You want a physical striker, etc. But that's about it to his game. I think that if he's running into space and he's confident, he will finish. But for me and Newcastle, irrespective of who your coach is next year, I think Jackson probably has the higher ceiling because he's got that technical space to improve. I think Delap is Delap. I can't see him getting any technically better, right? He's just who he is. He's probably going to be a bit more intelligent about his game as he matures, but in terms of technical quality, I don't see huge room for improvement. He just has not got the basic skills there. But I think Newcastle is not going to be playing with a low block. Right? He's not going to have that space to run into, irrespective of which manager you have. So for me, the clear and obvious one is Jackson. If you're trying to pick between these two.
So got two folks for Action Jackson. So, and I really like Jackson as well. I think in movements wise, he's the closest thing we could have to an Isak. Obviously, minus the finish, and we've talked about the reasons for that. So I wouldn't be upset if either one of them came to Newcastle. I think there's such a good player inside Jackson. I agree with you both. He just needs the right manager to do it, and I think you said it right, Bobby. That Eddie Howe with his man management skills, and I think Mitch would agree with this as well. I think Jackson and Eddie Howe could be a match made in heaven because we did it for Gordon, we did it for so many players. So like I said, I wouldn't be disappointed. I think why Newcastle are looking at Delap, for instance, is because I think he does have a technical quality. I think he just is lacking a severe confidence. The boy was raised through Man City Academy, and Man City Academy don't happen to create players that haven't got technical quality. They have really high quality. And I think he's just not been able to adapt to the style and play and everything else that evolves in Chelsea. Now, that's not necessarily Chelsea's fault. Obviously, he's got to get himself up to standard like João Pedro did, like Jackson did to some extent. But it hasn't worked out for him in terms of doing that. I can see him kind of suiting our system where he's running in behind. It is interesting to see, like you both kind of alluded to, is can he play with his back to goal, especially if you're playing against low blocks? I think he can, but he has to prove that. He's yet to prove that. He definitely hasn't shown that he could do it to the level of a Jackson, João Pedro have at the moment, although I do think he can. And he actually had a phenomenal conversion rate before he came to Chelsea as well. So I think it is down to a little bit of confidence why that's gone down. But you can still see him, like he came on, you can still get, I think he still gets pretty decent like shot volume, even in the small minutes that he gets, which shows that a striker that can get into the right place at the right time. And I think what's going to matter from a Newcastle perspective isn't just Delap or whoever the striker is by themselves, but who we partner them up with. So we're going to have to look for a new left winger. So it's not just Gordon. I think Elanga better back up his ideas because, geez, the Louise are scary. I give players 2 years, but is he trying? Is he trying hard to make me break my own rule? Apparently, we're in for Jarrah Bowen. If there's even a remote truth to that, I think that signals where Newcastle see the problem with their right side of their pitch, which produce very, very little, very, very, very little. So if you could partner a decent left winger and a right winger, maybe of a Jarrah Bowen's type of quality, with a Delap and or a Jackson, I think you can see the best out of all players. It's kind of like Murphy was with Isak, for instance. So I'm not overly like, I'm not going to be like, oh, Jackson's coming, I'm going to be excited, or Delap's coming, I'm going to be excited. I think there's a little bit more in Delap that is also kind of not being seen. Were you going to say something, Mitch?
Yeah, I was just going to add very quickly.
Oh.
Jackson's link-up play is elite, by the way.
It is.
It is elite.
Yeah, we've seen that firsthand. He's tore us apart a couple of times.
He's tore us. Yeah, he's done us.
And you've never been done by Delap, I can promise you that.
Yeah, that's a very fair point.
And you will never be.
To be fair, I wouldn't mind either, like Phil said, but neither of them can be the marquee. There has to be someone that stands out more. If one of these guys come in, there has to be someone else that you look at and go, yeah, that's the wow signing. These are the other pieces we need to put in to make that work.
I think one of these would be the marquee, but we'll see. I do think that.
Wait to kill my mood, Philip.
We're not in the I know. We're not in the Champions League, but Connor says Jackson is a hothead. Well, okay, there's two comments that I'm going to ask Bobby and maybe Mitch as well. That kind of alludes to Jackson's attitude and being a hot-headed. There's two here. So Connor says Jackson is a hothead. Howe is too soft to manage him. I disagree with this too soft part. I think there's you ask Lewis Hall and the others what they think about Eddie Howe and his whether he's soft or not. But just to add on top of that, Bobby, Ches says, what is Jackson's attitude? I don't know him as a player well, but I wouldn't want him seeing Newcastle as a step down. He needs to believe in the project and lead from the front. So two different questions, but kind of lead to attitude and hot-headedness. And I think it's a really good in-depth question from Ches there, and an interesting one from Connor. Mitch, what's your take on all of that? Not Mitch. Sorry, Bobby. Sorry, Bobby. Sorry, okay. I'll go to Mitch in a moment. Sorry, because I just thinking Bobby might know about Jackson.
Sure. So in terms of the attitude, the prior comment from Connor, so I agree with that. I touched on that earlier. Recent red card at Bayern Munich shows that he's really not growing up in terms of those rash challenges. He used to do a lot of stupid shit before. Like, I don't know if you remember that penalty incident. Well, the colored hair and like you're just not at that level, guy, to be demanding that level of attention, right? But I think he's humbled himself a bit, and more importantly, you're seeing less of the rash, because there were a lot of yellow cards for no reason, for dissent and just a lot of arrogant behavior. I'm not seeing a lot of that at Bayern, and I think the move from Chelsea to Bayern humbled him a lot. Not being rejected by Maresca for Delap really hurt his feelings, I think, and humbled him quite a bit. And then Bayern not actually keeping him as well. I don't think he's going to see Newcastle as a step down. I actually think that he's going to see it as an opportunity to rebuild his reputation. I think that's where his mindset is. He feels as though he's better than what he's doing right now and the respect that he's getting from Bayern. So I think he's going to come and he's going to try really hard to impress. So Ches is an excellent question, actually. So I think I would get comfortable with the fact that you're going to see a much more humble player if he does come to Newcastle. That'll be my bet.
That's interesting. I like that. Mitch, what's your take on all of that?
Well, on the kind of thing that Jackson is a hothead, but how can not be too soft? Like, you do not go through every English football league the way he has, being soft. Like, you do not get to this point in Eddie Howe's career if he's soft at all. There's no way about it whatsoever. The Jackson thing, I agree with Bobby. I think from his point of view, he would see it as his opportunity to just kickstart his career again, somewhere to be a bit of a star. Like, Newcastle love a number 9. Come here, score some goals, be loved. Not be the guy coming off the bench at Bayern or the hothead at Chelsea and stuff like that. It's an opportunity for him. And on the flip side of that, I think as a club, I think we've been really good at assessing players for that before they come in. Like we're good at the background checks to make sure we're getting players with a very good attitude coming into the club, rather than those that want to come in, have a quick 2 years, disappear, phone it in for 6 months of their second year anyway, just to move to something bigger. We've been really good at that so far, and I don't see why we'd be any different now.
I agree with both of you. Now, like Bobby said, I've gone back from leaning towards Delap to now kind of being 50-50 because I like the idea, because it's true that Jackson's gone through that road of maybe being a little bit arrogant. He went from Villarreal to Chelsea, big step, maybe thinking he's all that, but he was all that for a bit, and then obviously downward, especially Bayern Munich. And I agree with Bob, because some of the Reds I've seen him get, it seems more like out of frustration. Like it's I think it was against us as well. Do you remember when he got the red card against us last season?
Yeah.
It was just stupid. It wasn't like a late challenge. It's just like, you can tell it's just born out of frustration. And he got a red card now in Bayern Munich as well. And he needs that manager to really shake him up a bit and kind of take that time with him, of which Howe will do, and can really. And I think he's ready to reward someone who's willing to put that time into him, which I don't know if Bobby agrees on that. He might have not got at Chelsea necessarily, and he definitely didn't get at Bayern Munich. Right? Bayern Munich couldn't tell me you don't want me without telling me you don't want me. Exactly, sink or swim, like essentially. So, whereas it's going to be at Newcastle a bit different. So, I will watch this space with him. Final player, and before we finish things up, one more chat though. Connor says Jackson for 30 million is worth a punt, but not 50 million plus. I'll be surprised if we got him for 30 million, Bobby. I mean, what do you think that likely valuation for Jackson would be?
Well, if you look at the returns in for Bayern for the limited minutes that he got, I think he's going to be 50 plus, right? That's where the market is anyway, right? For a number of players, Elangas, the Maduekes, to me he's 5 to 10 million on improved on them. And I just want to make a quick comment on the red card, because I was probably a little bit unfair just now. The red card at Bayern was not out of frustration, not out of an emotional response. It was just a player who was desperate to prove himself and was trying too hard and went in for something late, right? So He's really, really, really trying hard, but he's not being. To me, he doesn't have he's not as smart sometimes as you would hope he would be, right? So he's still growing. But I tell you right now, he is going to be if he can learn. Like, he's been finishing pretty well you're not seeing any huge misses at Bayern. And now that's where fans got frustrated with him. When he adds finishing to his link-up play, he is going to be a player.
I agree. One more player, just a chat here. Chez says, Howe never said that Gordon refused to play on the left. Oh, that's somebody else, I think. James says, I would rather have Luis Suarez in Portugal over Jackson, but he's going to triple suggested prices over the World Cup around 80 million. I'll just give a comment on Luis Suarez. Don't know him too well, but he was in the Portuguese second division only last season, right? I'm not buying into his goal tally. I think he's 28 years old as well. He's got a lot to prove, and 28 years old, I think he is what he is. I'll be a bit surprised, but I'm willing to be wrong. Final player I want to look at, though, Joshua Acheampong. It's mainly actually to say, well, two things. Newcastle have been interested in it for a long time. We're looking for, I think, a hybrid right-sided defender, so someone that can play right back, but also can be right centre back at the same time. Of which every scouting report I read, Bobby, they couldn't wax any more lyrical about a player that I've seen. Like, they're like, this guy will play for Real Madrid. This guy will do this. So like really, really, really high praise. The unfortunate thing for me though is that it seems like Chelsea seem to be batting down the hatchets on this one and saying he's definitely not for sale. So 2 questions in one before I go to Mitch. I'll ask Bobby is, one, how serious are Chelsea about keeping him? And 2, what's your thoughts about his quality as a player?
I think he made a massive mistake in staying at Chelsea. It's really impacted his development. I think what we've seen, the trajectory he was on up to when he ran into Maresca, I think he's kind of flatlined a bit. And a player at this stage should be getting more minutes in competitive games. So you'll see, I think, that he's regressed quite a bit. And it's starting to be reflected in his confidence. He's making quite a few mistakes when he actually plays as well. Okay, so you can see that regression live in front of your eyes. And the club is not actually giving him the minutes that he needs, even in games that he should be playing in. So I expect that this player is going to leave this summer. He's pure profit anyway. So I think given the situation that we're in, he's definitely going to be one of the first names on the list for sale. But just commenting on the hybrid piece, and I've been through this cycle, and I am now at the stage where I do not want to see another hybrid signing. And even Don, Greasy Don, as you know from the Chelsea community, he and I would actually agree on this, right? Because we just want specialists. We're tired of these people who actually aren't good at anything in their actual position. Okay, like the utility players, it's good to have 1 or 2 in this squad, but in terms of them being at the first team, I don't think he's a great right back. And I think he needs a lot more development as a right centre back. Now, when he's actually been called on because of injuries, he did a fantastic job at centre back. He started to run out of gas late in the game, and like cramp and that kind of thing started to affect him. But I think that's because of a lack of play. But I think to have this guy in, if you're paying 3 at the back, to have him as the right centre back, that's a great position for him, I think. He's got the height. So look, he's got pedigree for sure. Came through a good Cobham system. He's the tail end of that. Those good classes of players that were winning, junior trophies. So I think he'd be a good player. I think you can be confident that he is for sale, and he needs minutes.
I like what you said at the end there, for sure. Big up to United TV. I'm going to go to Mitch in a moment. United TV, God bless you. Evening to you, sir. Good to see you, Richie. James says, I'll look at Bobby about to cry personally. No for me, but he is an option. Josh Acheampong. About to cry.
What happened there?
You'll have to correct us on that one, James. Let us know what you mean. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I couldn't even guess that. United TV says, impressive facial hair on the channel this evening. Wait, the only thing is I haven't taken off my hat. If I take off my hat, then it's going to be less impressive. So,
are you doing that thing that United kid is doing and not cutting hair until you win 5 games or something?
It wouldn't work for me. It wouldn't. Oh, you mean like my facial hair? You mean like
Sure.
I think maybe I think the bigger the beard, the more wisdom I have. Maybe I don't know. Let's see if there's anything else. It says, to be fair, I need a shave at the moment. But James says, no, I was making a joke about Chelsea. Maybe we have to lose a few of their wonder kids due to the misuse of them. Interesting. Okay. Mitch, what's your take on Mr. Joshua Acheampong? Do you think we can get him?
I've been a fan of Acheampong since the first time I see him come on for Chelsea. And fair enough, I've seen very little of him since. Every time he plays, he looks like he's physically impressive. He gets about a bit. He's good on the ball. Seems to make some good forward passes into the midfield. So I've been all for it. Someone like you say, the hybrids. I know Bobby doesn't like them, but someone that can play centre back,
We love them.
right centre back in a back three, right back. I think you need at least one of them in the team. Like I flagged this. I can't remember who I was talking to. I said to someone about if the opportunity of say James Garner came up, I wouldn't be against it because he can play both fullbacks. He can play centre mid and do a job across the board. You need one of those.
Marcus Tavernier.
Yeah, you kind of need one of those guys in your team, and Josh Acheampong could be that. But then that said, I remember years ago, Bobby might remember this. I might remember this guy. I remember watching a few Chelsea Cup games, and Josh McEachran came on, and I was positive that he was going to be a star, and he's disappeared off the face of the earth. So I might be wrong, but I quite like the lack of Acheampong. Quite like the look of Acheampong.
Look, just to react to that very quickly. So the thing is that McEachran was always tiny, right? So I mean, he looked great, but I was never convinced because of his size. I think because of Josh, and I agree with you on having that one or two utility player in the team. Okay, you definitely need it. But this guy to me has got unique characteristics that would make him an outstanding centre back. And the fact that he can play right back. I mean, sometimes when he gets up the pitch, he loses the ball, etc. I'm not totally convinced about it. But as a centre back, given how physical, tall, and elegant he is on the ball, etc., I think he would make a fantastic centre back, and I think it's a mistake for the clubs not to be, grooming him in that way. And if he can find a club that would actually have a manager that would, really teach him to be a quality centre back, he's got the natural attributes to do it, and he is for sale.
I think there's a couple good questions there, just in terms of like the utility player and specialist positions. So like for us, because at the moment we've got Tino Livramento, he might stay just because he's injured. But say Tino Livramento stays, we've got a specialist right back anyway. When we have those kind of fullbacks like Livramento and Howe, so they fly up the pitch and they allow the forwards or the midfielders to also to go invert.
Yeah.
With the type of right hybrid player that Acheampong is, and there's another player that we're looking at, what they allow us to do is they'll probably, like you said, stay in the back three. And what would happen is our number rates will go up. We've got in more advanced positions, allowing the wingers to either go out wide or to invert. So the 8 will either invert or go out wide. Does that make sense? So doing the job of the fullback. So it allows us two different things. So Acheampong wouldn't be, in my view, expected to fly down the flanks like a Livramento does. Livramento wants to do that all day. So Acheampong's role would be quite different, where he'll be kind of stay in the back three, hit them balls from that position, do what he's best at. So I think that's how he'll be used. So
you're expecting 3 at the back next year, yeah?
It'll be a mixture of that. We're already kind of doing that, to be honest.
He'd be excellent for that. He'd be excellent for that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So
when both of our fullbacks are fit, Tonali normally drops in between the centre backs.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
we do it from that approach. But if Trippier starts the game these days, you'll see Lewis Hall bomb on a lot more, and then Trippier makes the back three. Which we also tried to do it a little bit against Forrest, where Dan Burn didn't go and Lewis Hall was getting forward, and it all shuffled into a back three from that position. So we have done it quite a lot this season.
Yeah. Dave says, what would Acheampong cost if it's 25 mil? Yes. If it's 50 mil, no way. I think it's going to be a bit more than 25 mil. Bobby, what's your kind of rough estimate?
Look, we've got a knack for mismanaging talent to the extent that we actually bring down their values in their prime. In Cuckoo, I mean, the list is long, right? And this is another one that ticks that box. He has not been allowed to develop over the last 18 months, right? And I think because of that, 35 million-ish is probably, you're going to probably pay an extra 5 million of English tax. So I think a good 40 million is the most you should pay for him. I think that'll be an attractive price for us anyway, because it's, you know, homegrown, pure profit kind of play, and we're going to need some SCR room for sure. So look, I think anything between 35 and 40 million. I mean, if you could pick up him and Jackson for 100 million pounds, I think you'd be doing very well.
That's decent. That's decent. And the owners, Chelsea owners, would be very happy with that.
Oh, they would be.
Well, it's been a phenomenal show with our friends of the channel, Mitch and Bobby. Incredible chat as always. You guys, the questions that you ask and even your chats in between yourselves have been phenomenal. We've talked about, we gave our match reactions to our individual games, Newcastle, Forrest, Chelsea, Liverpool. Where'd you get 2 match reactions in one show? Well, a lot of other shows, but it was good on this show as well. And but that was really, really good. We went through also the performances over the season. Talking about XG, like in some depth, like goodness gracious me. Okay, where'd you get that level of depth? My XG. You got Bobby creating his own table. We're discussing it here, looking at the underlying stats. You don't.
I blame you for this, Phil. I listen. I only started looking at this crap after I met you. Okay.
Our predictions, we'll put it this way: our predictions were way off, but I think there's circumstances for that. Looking forward to our next predictions for next season. We did that, and then we rounded things off by talking about potential transfers and transfer news between Chelsea and Newcastle. Lots of players we discussed: Delap, Jackson, Tonali, Gordon, Acheampong. It was way more in depth than a lot more time than I expected. Like there's some interesting business that could be done between both clubs, to be honest. Bobby, where can let folks know where they can find you?
Hopefully it's showing on screen there at Bobby Fairview. I'm on X. Always happy to engage with folks. Love Newcastle fans, so would love to meet you guys over there. Incredible.
And Mitch, I know it says on your thingy, but just in case anybody's watching on audio or anything like that, where can folks find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Where the Owls Sleep. That's my personal. That's on there. I've literally just switched it to the pod one. I didn't realize it was still my personal one on there. Yeah, but Where the Owls Sleep, we run every Monday night. I know it's your show, but I'm going to plug something for Phil today. If you don't follow Philip on X, have a look on there. He does like player profile pages, and they're exceptional. Check them out. I started spotting them the other day, and there's a lot of information packed into a page on there. So check them out. 100%. They're quality work. So well played on that, Phil.
Thank you. It's really enjoyable making
you need to tag me in this stuff, man. I didn't even know you were producing this.
Because yeah, absolutely, I will do. I just thought, like, I don't know. I think X is playing tricks on people, because I really, it doesn't show. I think it doesn't show people at all. But yeah, absolutely, I'll tag you in. Absolutely. I'll do. In fact, I'll do my next one on Jackson. How about that? Amazing. So I've got a reason to tag you in. Absolutely. But folks, chat, you've been absolutely phenomenal. As always, you've been with us, and I'm really looking forward to our next show. But as always, folks, make sure you look after each other, and God bless you all. Take care.
Brilliant from Howe. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Fabian Howe.